Okay, I think we might get started. So, as I said before, welcome. My name's Paul Sharpe. I'm from Easy Payslip. It's a lovely day here in Sydney, where I am, which makes lockdown a little easier to bear. So I hope you've got some sunshine out your window wherever you are, or better still, in one of the places lucky enough not to be locked down. Before starting, I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal and the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land from where I am based here in the inner west of Sydney and all over Australia, and pay my respects to the elders, both past and present. So what we're going to cover today is a few things that will hopefully give everyone some comfort around STP and payroll. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about us, try and keep that quick, and then really focus on understanding STP and how it affects you. Apologies for the typo I've just noticed where it says undoing. It's supposed to be understanding STP and how it affects you. And then I'll actually show you, I'll try and focus on some actual system demonstrations to give you an idea about how you can easily solve STP and payroll for you and your business. And then we'll talk just about a few other things, some help and support, and a free offer. Just notice another typo, that 3 should be a 5. And I'll also answer your questions. So in order to get the most out of this webinar, I will be sticking some polls up. They should just pop up on your screen and you should just be able to click a multiple choice answer. And the idea is it's really useful for me to get some feedback or some insight about you and the attendees. And hopefully it's also a little less boring than me continually talking to you. So let's try one now. So the first question is, why are you here? So hopefully on your screen, you'll see a poll asking you why you're here. If you do see that, can you click on an answer? I'll just give you about 30 seconds to have a read of those answers. And then I will very gladly share those responses with you. Okay. Okay, I'm glad to hear that every single person except for one, actually, no, yep, every single person except for 2 gave an answer. So hopefully everyone's not having any problems with the technology. So I'll tell you, most of you, half of you have said that you need a general understanding of payroll and STP. So that is good, because that is one of my objectives for this webinar, to provide you with that general understanding of payroll and STP. Second most, with 29%, was I want to know the quickest and easiest way to solve STP, which is another objective for this webinar. So hopefully we can solve those 2. We did have one person say I was looking for something else, got lost. So I hope you find your way in future, but you might want to stick around and you might learn something interesting in case you're a business owner or become a business owner in the future. So thank you for that. There's also a Q&A function. So you'll see on your Zoom bar a little Q&A button. You can at any time type a question in there, and at various points throughout the webinar, I will sort of pause and just have a read of those questions and see. I won't necessarily answer them all immediately, but I'll try and answer them when I'm sort of covering that relevant section. One of the participants has raised their hand, which is another thing you can do in Zoom. Can I ask that participant if they've got a comment or have a question? Can they click on the Q&A and just put that question there? Also, you can always contact us afterwards. So we've got a customer service team here in Sydney. You can reach me, you can reach my customer service colleagues. You can always email us with any questions afterwards if we don't get to them now. And at the end of the webinar, I'll be sharing with you a voucher code that will allow you to get 3 months free with Easy Payslip if you would like to use Easy Payslip to solve payroll and STP. Okay, so I'll just tell you a little bit about us. We are a startup. We exist. Our goal really is just to make life easy for small businesses. So we are a small business like you. We know it's hard, and we know there are lots of rules, there's lots of regulations, there's lots of things that you need to keep up to date with. I know this because I have to do the same thing myself. There's always new requirements, there's new things to read. I always feel like, have I covered all the things that I need to be across? Lots of different systems to use, and never enough time to use them or to learn how to use them properly. So we try and make those things as simple as possible. We're not actually flying to the moon, as that picture indicates, but we are, where possible, trying to take the complexity out of some of the things you have to navigate as a small business owner. So we really believe that when you do these admin tasks such as payroll, it should fit in with your lifestyle as a business owner. So if you're in an office sitting in front of a desk all day, you should be able to do your payroll then and there. If you're on the road and you spend more time on your phone or a tablet, you should be able to, that shouldn't stop you doing your payroll on the go. So we believe very much that technology should fit in with the way you do business. We also know, we have an appreciation of the challenges of being business owners because we are. And I can tell you my experience personally is it's quite lonely sometimes running a business, and you kind of feel unsupported. So for that reason, customer service is really important to us. We have a local Sydney team. You can always call us or email us when you've got questions. And we also take your feedback very seriously. We build products and improve our products based on what you tell us. And so, for example, we're always making updates to payroll, and we're also building an invoicing app at the moment based on feedback that you've told us about. So we are very grateful for, and we encourage any feedback you have. Let's just do another quick poll, find out why you are here. Oh, hang on, have I got that wrong? Whoops, sorry, bear with me a moment. A bit of a technology fail. So we've done that one. Let's go on to the next one. Do you know what STP is? So you should see some options come up. Okay, I have seen there's a couple of questions there. I have seen those questions, and I will get to them at the appropriate time. Okay, so most of you have said, I have some idea about it, but need to know more. And some of you said, about a third of you said, yep, I know what it is and how it affects me. And we've got one person who has no idea about STP. So hopefully we can cover all those bases today. I'll try and keep the pace somewhere in the middle. So not moving too slowly for those who have some idea about STP. Okay, so what is STP? I'll tell you how it works. So as an employer, as a business owner, you are required to pay your employees. That should be nothing new to you. Even if you run your own company, you at some point have to pay yourself. And that involves what we call running payroll or creating your payslips. You then need to pay your staff. Now, again, none of this should be new to you. Nothing about STP, about single touch payroll, changes the fact that you still need to pay your staff. What STP says is that once you've done that, you then need to report that information to the ATO in real time. So doing your pay slips, paying your staff doesn't change, but when you do that, you now have to report that information electronically to the ATO each payday. And that is the basics of what STP is. So it doesn't change any of your other reporting requirements. It doesn't change the fact that you still need to do, or you or your accountant need to do business activity statements. You still need to put to fill in the wages section in your BAS. It is only a reporting system, so it is not going to execute the actual payments to your staff. All it is doing is reporting to the ATO what you've said you are going to pay your staff, what you've said the tax that you're going to withhold, and the super that you will pay your staff. So it's only a reporting mechanism. It's not actually executing any payment as such. It does actually save you some time at year end. So because of STP, we don't need to do income statements anymore for employees, formerly known as group certificates, because employees now get that automatically from logging into their MyGov account. And the way it gets there is because the businesses are doing single touch payroll reporting. So when you do this electronic reporting to the tax office takes that information and puts it into an income statement for your employees that they can access through their MyGov account. So it does actually save you doing sort of manual income statements at the end of the financial year. So how does it work? On one level, it's quite simple. You use an ATO approved payroll software system to create your payslips. And then that should automatically create the STP file for you. And you should be able to send that to the ATO with just a couple of clicks. So it's just that extra step. You should always need to have some sort of payslip that you provide your employees that calculates, the amount of tax withheld, the super you owe them, how much they get paid. Now there's an extra step where your software should turn that into an STP file that you can then touch a button and send it off to the ATO. So the information that is sent, there's basically two types. There's information about you and your employees. So information about you, such as your ABN, or it could be your WPN, your contact details, and then information about your employees, such as their contact details, their tax file number, their tax status. So that goes in each STP file. And then the actual wages, tax, and super information from each payday goes in the file as well. Now it's quite summarized at this stage. You basically get generally with one amount for wages, one amount for tax, and one amount for super. Some allowances are broken down. What is not sent is hours and hourly rates. So there is nothing about how many hours someone worked. There is nothing about how much staff get paid per hour. It is just a lump sum that shows wages, tax and super, and possibly some other items like allowances. Now, I just want to talk very briefly about closely held companies. For those who aren't familiar what a closely held company is, it's basically a company where the owner of the company pays themselves. So then that person being paid, who is also the owner of the company, is known as a closely held payee. Now, they had exemptions from STP up until July this year, but that exemption has ended. But they have been given a little bit of flexibility compared to normal employers and employees. So they have two options. If you're a closely held payee, you can do your pay slips and then the STP report each 3 months based on what you actually pay yourself. Or, I mean, you can do it more often than that, but you need to do it at least every 3 months. So what you actually pay yourself, you create a pay slip that reflects that, and then you send the STP file. The other option you have as a closely held business is you can do the same thing every 3 months, but an estimate. So if you don't know exactly, or you and your accountant work it out at the year end, how much you're going to take out of the company, you can estimate over the year, you can divide it by 4, and you do it as an estimate. Now, the important thing to note is you do this exactly the same in any payroll solution. Currently, the design of STP, there is no place where you tell the system that you are a closely held payee. There is no place where you say you are doing an estimate instead of doing the actual amounts. You report it in exactly the same way. You do a pay slip, you report those amounts. The only difference if you're doing an estimate is when you do your 4th quarter at the end, you would work out what you're actually paying yourself and work out the difference. So your last quarter would balance out the estimates from the first 3 quarters. But as far as processing this in Easy Payslip or other software, you do it exactly the same way. You are sending an STP file that looks exactly the same as any other business with amounts, wages, tax, super, etc. Okay, so just before I go on, I'm just going to check some questions. So we've got a question, is it reporting what I'm going to pay or what I have paid? So that's a good question. Thank you for that. It is, so when you do a payslip, that represents what you intend to pay your employees. That is the information that is passed to the ATO in the STP file. So it is only a reporting mechanism. So the expectation is if you do a payslip for your employee that says you're paying them $400 and you're withholding $100 in tax, that's what will be in the STP file. Now, there is nothing to stop you. If you pay your staff something different, then there is going to be a disconnect between what you've reported and what you've actually paid. So that is a problem, because the idea is that you are accurately reporting what you are paying your staff, and you're supposed to send it on or before payday. So the idea is you generate your pay slips, you work out what you're paying your staff, and then you do the STP report, you send that off, and you pay your staff. It should really be on the same day, or you can actually send the STP file a day or two before if you want. I had another question about closely held. With closely held, does that also apply to your children? In theory, yes, if they are employees. So if they're considered to be an employee, then they are a related entity. What I would say is you should definitely check any peculiarities about your specific scenario with an accountant. But generally, a closely held is described where there is a relationship between the payee and the business owner. So thank you for those questions. As I said, there's a few other questions that I will come back to. So how do we solve STP with Easy Payslip? So fortunately, the process probably works quite similar with various software providers. So I will talk about STP, but the concepts are important. So if you're using something else, you'll probably be able to apply these to other software. So the first thing you need to do is set up an account. So for Easy Payslip, you can go to our website, you click on free trial, or you can download our app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. And then you set up an account, and you just follow the prompts. It will ask you a few questions like your business name and your contact details. Once you've done that, to start doing payroll and STP, 3 steps. First one is you enter employee details. So this is where you create an employee record that says who your employee is and some other basic information about them, like their tax file number, their contact information, and their tax status. For example, are they a resident? Do they receive the tax-free threshold? The kind of information that should all be included on the tax file number declaration form. So that's a step you only need to do once for each employee. When you've set up your employee or employees, the next step is you create your payslips. And once you've created your payslips, the system will automatically create an STP file for you that you go and send with just a couple of buttons. So that is the basic process. So the employee details you should only set up once, and then creating payslips and sending STP files, you would do each payday. So if you're paying your staff each week or each fortnight, that's when you would do it. Or if you're a closely held payee, you might only be doing this once every 3 months, each quarter. So just to keep this interesting, instead of me just going on and on about concepts, it might be nice for you to see how to actually do this in Easy Payslip. So we'll do some live system demonstrations now. So I'll go through and just explain those 3 steps when we're looking at the system. We'll look at an employee record. We'll create some payslips and send some STP files. We'll look at the mobile app, and then we'll look at a few extras. So just before we get started, I'm quite interested to know which of you that do have an Easy Payslip account use the website on your PC or Mac, and which of you use Easy Payslip on your mobile phone. So if you could answer the question that's on your screen, that will really help me understand how I should conduct these demonstrations. Okay, I'll just give you a... Okay, you have all answered, so thank you for that. So 78% of you said website, 22% said mobile phone app. What I would say is many of our users start on website and then end up using it on the mobile phone app because they find it so easy. So we are cloud-based. So once you have an account, you can log in any way you want. You can today do your payroll on the website. Tomorrow you can download the app. You log in with your same username and password, and you can have a go doing it from the app. What I'll do for this demo is I'll do it on the website. It's almost exactly the same, and it's probably a bit easier to describe because the screen's a bit bigger. And then afterwards, I'll just do a quick sort of run through of the app, just so you can see how similar it is. And just one last poll before we get started. I'm interested to know if you have actually set up an Easy Payslip account. So I think most of you have. Okay, so almost all of you have. One hasn't, one isn't sure. What I would say to the couple who haven't or are not sure, the first steps are easy. You literally just start a free trial, answer the questions, follow the prompts. So enter your business name, enter your ABN when it asks, enter your contact details. At that point, you are then ready to start doing the steps that I'm going to go through now, which is those 3 steps of employees, payslips, and an STP. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is switch to Easy Payslip. So you should all see Easy Payslip on your screen. Amber, my colleague, who's also on the webinar, please send me a message if you can't see Easy Payslip, but I'll assume you all can. So I am in a test account in Easy Payslip. And as you can see, I'm on the employee screen. Can I just ask, we did get a message a little while ago saying can't see any images. Can someone just comment to me, just let me know, to send another message if you are still having problems seeing my screen. But I'll go on under the assumption that you can actually see. Oops, let's go back here. Okay, so once you set up an account, as I said, you add your business name, your contact details, you will be brought to this screen. Now, what I talked about in the slides was 3 steps: employees, payslips, and an STP. That is the way these menus are structured. So it's just a matter of working your way down these 3 menus. So the first step is employees, setting up your employee records. As you can see here, I've got 3 employees. So I will go into one. I'll go into Jason Donovan. Actually, I'll go into Kylie first. So I just click anywhere here. It takes me into the employee record. Now, this screen is exactly the same whether you're adding a new employee or looking at an existing one. The only difference is if you're adding a new employee, these fields will all be blank. So we've got a number of sections of information: name, birthday, email address. Now the email address is used that's where their payslips get sent, but you don't have to send payslips. You can just turn that on or off to determine that when you create a payslip, whether or not it is actually emailed to the employee. And we've got some address details here, which should probably say Ramsey Street. Then I'll go on to the next section, which is payroll. So we have employment start date. You can always put the start of the financial year if you're not sure. And then we've got payment basis, hourly rates, frequency, and hours and period. So this is where we say how much do your employees get paid. Now, a couple of important things to understand here. Whatever you enter here, it will be proposed each time you do a payslip, but you can always overwrite it on the payslip, so you are not locked in. If you know that someone always gets $50 an hour by entering it here, it means that will come up on the payslip and you will have an opportunity to accept that value or to change it. So this is just putting down the most typical scenario. You can choose hourly, which is what I've got here, $50 an hour. You choose how often they get paid, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, and how many hours they typically work, and it will take those amounts and put them on your payslip. If you can also do a salary. For example, you could put $60,000 there. Whoops. Or you can choose other. If you choose other, then it won't ask for any amount. So if you're closely held, you pay yourself different amounts every time, you might want to put other. The only advantage of choosing hourly or salary is you can put the rate in here and it will propose that each time you do a payslip. Then we'll go on to leave. Now, many people will not use Easy Payslip to track leave. So if you do turn this on, it means Easy Payslip will keep track of your leave balance. So it will show you on your payslip how much leave you accrue. So each time you do a week's work, you'll accrue a certain number of hours. And it will also give you the opportunity to enter when an employee takes leave, and that will take the hours away from their leave balance. So you can choose to turn it on. And if you do turn it on, you can put their starting balance, so whatever hours they are owed when they start using Easy Payslip. Or you can just turn it all off and you won't see anything to do with leave on the payslip. And so I think for closely held, that's probably the most likely scenario. They'd leave them off. At any time, you can change your mind and turn them back on, put in a starting balance. You can choose leave loading. And again, you can choose whether it shows that leave on the payslip. So I will leave it on for Kylie. Then we go to taxes. So this is where what you would normally do is say tax file number has been provided and you would enter the tax file number. And then you choose, again, from the tax file declaration form, whether they're residents or non-resident or a working holiday maker, and what their tax band is, whether they get the tax-free threshold or not. And then the last section is super. The only important information here is the super rate, which defaults to 10%, because that's how much super you should be paying. All these other fields are optional. So they will print on the payslip if you put in a fund name, but it does not go in the STP file, so it is not necessary to enter that information. So for Kylie's record, we've got, I'll just go back to payroll, we've got that she works for $50 an hour for 38 hours a week. And I'll just quickly show you Jason's record. Jason is a closely held, so he gets paid quarterly. We're going to do quarterly pay slips, and we've got payment basis other because he always does it differently each time. So that is the first step. You only need to do that once. You set up your employees, you create those records, and that's done. And you should never need to change them unless something changes, like their tax status or the amount they earn. Now you're ready to do step 2, which is create your payslip. So you go to the payroll menu. First thing we do is enter our dates. So we've got start date and end date. So this is the period that they are working. So I will say that they are getting paid for a week, and the week starts on September the 5th on the Sunday, and it goes to the Saturday the 11th. And I'm going to say the payment date is Saturday the 11th. The payment date's important. That is when the ATO says you should be sending your STP file. So if you have a payment date of the 11th of the 9th, the ATO will expect an STP file to come on or before the 11th of the 9th. You can do all your employees at once, but for this example, I'll just do 2. I'll just do Jason and Kylie, and then we click on Create Pay Run. So the first employee is Jason Donovan, shown up here. Remember, we didn't put any wage or salary information in when we set up his employee record, which is why we don't see anything here. So we can click on this. We can click anywhere on this box and put in a base rate and some hours. So for example, we can say that he gets $100 an hour and he worked 40 hours, and it creates that line item there. Or we might say he doesn't really work based on hours. So we can remove the hours and we can choose another item. So we've got here, add wages. And we can add any of these items. If you use per job unit, you can basically call it whatever you want. It's just another way of having a quantity, but not hours. So for example, you could pay someone per delivery, you could pay someone per haircut, or you could enter director's fees, You can put your own description. So I'll just put fees, fees for the boss, and I can put a flat amount in there. Let's say it's $6,000. So now I've got that item there, fees for the boss. Notice it tells me the total there. It calculates the tax. For this employee, we put down quarterly. So that's calculating tax based on earning $6,000 quarterly. It's also calculating that 10% super. Now, I can accept the system calculated amounts, or if for any reason I want to enter my own tax amounts, I can just click edit and put in my own tax amount there. I can do the same thing with super. Edit and put in my own tax amount. Now, this is a really simple scenario. If I want to add overtime, if I want to add leave days, allowances, deductions, different types of super, like salary sacrifice, I can do that down there, just clicking on the plus. But for the moment, let's just do the basic scenario. So that's basically all there is to it. I can save and send that, but it's a good idea before you do this, especially when you're getting familiar with Easy Payslip, to do a preview. So this shows you exactly what the payslip is going to look like. It's got the business name, A1 Happy Noodles, the ABN, the employee name and title, the period, the gross pay and the net pay. And you can see here how it's broken down. So fees for the boss, $6,000. It's got the tax calculated, net pay, and super. If I pick up a mistake, it's as simple as just going back. I'm back to this screen, and then I can make a change. So if, for example, I realize it should have been 7,000, not 6,000, I just click on this row, and I can now make that 7,000. I can preview that again to check, or when I'm happy with that, all I need to do is click on Save and Send. So what that does, it sends the payslip to the employee, unless you've turned that off in their employee record. It also sends a copy to the employer, which you can also turn off if you don't want to receive a copy of that email. And it gives me a nice message telling me that they're done. And you can see Jason now has a tick. Now I can click on Next, and now I'm at Kylie's payslip. So for Kylie, we put in that she works 38 hours a week at $50 an hour in the employee record. So that's why that's been copied onto the payslip here. Again, I still have the flexibility. If something changes, I can click on it. I can change an amount here. I can say she works 40 hours this week, and that updates. But if Kylie, let's just say she always works the same every week or every fortnight or month, there's nothing you have to change. You just check that amount there. You can see the calculations here, and you can save and send, or you can preview first just to be sure. So let's do a preview. And here's the payslip that will actually be sent to her. Similar information, gross pay, net pay. There's the hourly rates. There's the tax. Now for Kylie, we had annual leave turned on. So you can see she's accrued, this is her first week working, she's accrued 3 hours of leave. So her closing balance is 3 hours, and she's accrued 3 hours of personal leave. And there's the super. So if I'm happy with that, I can save and send. Okay, so that is the next step. That is creating payslips. It's as simple as that. It's worth spending a couple of minutes just having a play around with that screen the first time you do it. But once you get the hang of it, you can probably do that in only 30 seconds or so. So now that I've done that step, I can go straight on to STP by clicking here, View Summary in STP. And it tells me, here's my payroll summary. So I can download a report if I want to see that in PDF. It tells me my 2 employees in the pay run. I can expand them. It tells me the STP status as well. So it says STP not sent for both of them. So all I need to do to send it is click on Lodge STP. But you don't have to do this at the same time. So you might forget to do this. You might come back tomorrow. You might log in, and then you might think, oh, did I send that STP file? You can go straight to the STP menu. Here is that pay run there. So you can check the dates. It's got that icon that indicates it hasn't been sent. So I can click into it, and I'm back at that same screen where it tells me the 2 employees in the pay run, and it tells me that it's not sent. So all I need to do to send it is click on Lodge STP file, type my name in, and then click Lodge. And that's been submitted. Now, notice the status now has that clock where it says STP pending. So what that means is it's on its way to the ATO. When the ATO receive it, they will send us an electronic message back saying that it's been successfully received, and that status will change to complete. I can go back, and that icon's been updated. So at any time, I can come to the STP menu, and I will see the history of all my pay runs and their STP status. So good idea to check every now and then to make sure you don't have any pay runs that you haven't yet sent. And you can actually do the same thing from the payroll menu. So in the payroll menu, we created the pay run from this create new section. I can also click on previous pay runs, which gives me that same information here. So it shows me that pay run, and it shows me it's got that STP status of pending. So that is the basics of sending STP. There really is not much more to it. So what you would do then, I'll just go through this one more time while we're on a roll here. We come, let's say, to the next fortnight or the next quarter or the next week, and we do a new pay run. So we enter the dates. So I'll do the next week. I'll say from the 12th to the 18th, and I'll say the payment date is the 18th. Choose my employees, create pay run. First one is Jason. Notice it remembers that item from the previous payslip. So it remembers that he got paid $7,000 for last week or last quarter. I can leave that as is, or I can click on it and change it. Change it to $6,000. And then if I'm happy with that, I can preview just to check. Notice now it's got the total for this payslip, that's $6,000, and it's also got the year to date. So that's the total of this payslip and the previous one. And once I'm happy with that, I can save and send. And then I go next. And now it takes me on to Kylie. Again, it brings this information in from the employee record. So if that's the normal hours and rate that she gets, I don't have to change anything. I can just click on save and send. And that is my pay run complete. So you can see there, once you get the hang of it, I've done that pay run in probably only a minute or so. And I can go straight on to sending STP. So I click on View Summary in STP. There's my pay run. I can check the figures here, just make sure there's no mistakes before I send it. And if I'm happy with that, I click on Lodge STP, put my name in, and then click Lodge. And it will think for a few seconds. And now it's got that status of pending. So I can go back. And now on the previous pay run screen, it shows me that I've got 2 pay runs that are both pending. And so that's basically how simple it is to do payroll and STP. What I will do now, I'm just going to go through and have a look at the questions and see if there's any relevant questions that you've asked that I can answer for you. So I had a question about, for closely held businesses, I want to put the payment to their loan account during the year and then doing a pay slip at the end of the year. So the new rules with STP are that you need to do an STP report each quarter. So that does not say how you need to do your accounting. So if you want to record that in a loan account, that's fine. What you report are just estimates, so it doesn't even have to match up what you're putting in the employee's loan account. What you're doing each quarter is you are estimating a quarter of what they are going to get for the year. And then when it comes to the final quarter and you work out exactly what they are going to get paid, then you would do that last pay slip to reflect that, to balance it out. So it doesn't change how you do your internal accounting. If you want to record this in a director's loan account, for example, it doesn't stop you doing that. Another question, if company ceases business, for example, in October, can STP be finalized then before June the 30th? Yeah, so thank you for that question. At the end of the year, at the end of the financial year, instead of doing a group certificate or payment summary, you do what's called a final STP file. It's a really simple process where, in fact, I'll show you now. You go to the STP menu. Actually, I can't do it with this account because they're pending. Let me just find another account. Bear with me. Okay. So you select the financial year, and it brings you up a summary of your totals, so your year-to-date totals for all your employees. All you then need to do is click Lodge STP file. And what that does, it confirms the yearly totals for your employees. It also marks them as complete, so it marks them as tax ready. And what that means is the ATO will take that information, it will overwrite any previous STP information you've sent for the year. It will create on their income statements, your employees' income statements in their MyGov account, it marks it as tax ready. So that means your employees can go and do their individual tax returns. Now, you have until the 4th, usually about the 14th of July to do that at the end of the financial year. But if your business closes or if an employee leaves, there is nothing to stop you doing that throughout the year. So you can do that at any point throughout the year. And I'll just show you how I got there again. I'm in the STP menu, and you've got that little 3 dots in the top right, and you click on FY Final STP. So you can do that at any point. Another question, are we able to backdate to 1st of July 2021 now? Yes, so if you are just starting STP reporting now, when you do your first payslip, you can start at the 1st of July. So you do have the option, let's just say you do weekly payslips. You could go back and create every weekly payslip from the 1st of July until now, or you could just do one payslip for the entire period. So you could do one payslip from the 1st of July up until now. The payment date is important. So if you do put a payment date back in July, that's okay. The ATO is not going to fine you. You will get a letter, likely saying, we've noticed that you sent this STP file late compared to your payment date. So some of our customers get those letters from the ATO. I can assure you no one is being fined for that at this stage. But what I would say is they're looking at that payment date. So if you have a payment date in July, but you send the STP file in September, there's a chance you'll get a letter from the ATO reminding you that you should be sending your STP files on or before the payment date. Okay. I would like to thank David for his question. He's asked me if I have Kylie's mobile number. No, I don't. It's a bit strange you didn't ask for Jason's number as well. So thank you for that contribution, David. Just a couple more questions before we move on. If I'm paying my salary monthly for the previous month on the 10th of the following month, how do I do it for the year end? Will the June salary be paid in July, or will it be reported in June? This is a very good question, so thank you for that. So when we create a payslip, there are 3 dates. There's the start date, the end date, and the payment date. Now, the start date and the end date relate to the actual period that is worked, so the period they are getting paid for. The payment date is when they're actually getting paid, and the payment date is what determines the reporting period. So if you're paying someone for work in June, but the payment date is in July because you might pay them on the 10th of the following month, then that becomes part of the next year. That becomes part of your July. So that does not get reported in that financial year, it gets reported in the next one. So if you have, let's just say at the end of June, you have a pay period that goes over, it's partly in June, partly in July. You do not have to split it up and do 2 separate pay slips and 2 separate STP reports. You only do one, and you do it based on the payment date. So if the payment date is July, then that entire payment week or month, the entire pay slip falls into July. There is no need to split it up. All the ATO says is if you paid it in this, if the payment date is in this period or this financial year, then that's what they're interested in for that financial year. If it's paid the following financial year, it doesn't matter if you're paying them for June. If it's paid in July, then that becomes part of the next year. Just had another question about how I selected quarterly pay. So I'll just go back into, that was set in the employee record. Let me just go back to my other business, which is A1 Happy Noodles. So I'm in Jason's employee record. So I'm in the employee menu. I'll just show you that again. Employee record, and then I click into Jason. And under payroll, I have payment frequency here. So I've put that as quarterly. And because it's quarterly, it will calculate tax quarterly. If I select weekly, it will calculate tax on each payslip as if it's for a week. So that's how you do that. Just a couple more questions. Is holiday pay calculated automatically? Yes, it is. So I'll just show you one more payslip for Kylie with some holiday pay. So I'll click on Kylie, then we'll do the next week, 19th to the 25th, and we'll make the payment date the 25th. This time, I'll say that she had 1 day's leave. So instead of doing 38 regular hours, let's just say she worked 7.6 hours a day. So she only did 30.4 regular hours. So I changed her regular hours to 30.4. I then come down to entitlements and I say annual leave pay. And I enter 7.6 hours there. And I click add. Now it automatically uses Kylie's base rate to work that out. So it's reduced to normal wages by 7.6 hours, and it's included 7.6 hours of leave. So if I preview the payslip now, you can see annual leave pay 7.6 hours at her same base rate. You can also see that it's got some leave in the leave taken, and it's affected her balance at the end of the payslip. So yes, leave pay is calculated automatically based on the user's base rate that you enter in the employee record. Okay, so just one more question from Mary, which I haven't answered. A really useful thing to do, and business owners, I must say, really love this. You can invite your accountant. So one of the hardest things I believe of being a small business owner is feeling unsupported or not sure if you're doing something right. Really good idea to invite your accountant. You can also invite your business partner, your mother, your wife, your kid. You do not pay any more to invite other people to your account. So each organization needs a subscription. Once you have a subscription for that organization, unlimited number of people can be invited. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to go to the menu in the top right here, and I'm going to click on Manage Organizations. And this is where the details of my business are. You can see here, I have a subscription here. I have some bonus days because I'm lucky enough to be an Easy Payslip staff member. And you can see there's two members of this organization. So there's me, I'm the owner. So this is the user that I'm logged in at. I've also invited Charlie, the business owner, to access the account. It could be the other way, that Charlie, the business owner, set up the account and then they invited their accountant. You can invite as many people as possible as you like. There is still only one subscription. So all you need to do for my organization, you click on Add Member, you put in your accountant's name or your colleague's name, you enter their email address, and then you click Invite. So there is no extra charge for that. Just one other question about leave loading. Just go back to my employee record, go back into Kylie. And if I go to leave, there is this option here for annual leave loading. If I turn that on, when I enter leave on a payslip, it will automatically add the 17.5%. Now, I do have some other questions. A few of them are sort of accountant specific. So what I will do, I will respond to them afterwards. I just want to move on for the time being. So that's the basics of how to do payroll and STP. I will just show you how subscriptions work. So this menu you see on the left here is how you do your payroll. Anything else like setting up your user ID, two-factor authentication, your business details, you use this menu at the top. So I'm going to go to Manage Organizations. It's got my business details, my address. As I mentioned before, this is where you can invite your accountant or your colleague. It's also got subscriptions. Okay, so one more question about untaxed allowances. I'll just do one more payslip. I'll do another one for Kylie. We'll do the next week again. Whoopsie daisy. Let's try that again. There we go. Just choose Kylie. So the question was, how do you do untaxed allowances? So pretty much all the different options you need are down here under additional payslip options. If you click on allowances, it then asks you, do you want to do a taxable allowance or an untaxed? If you choose untaxed, it gives you the drop down. You can choose any of these, or you can choose other and you can put your own description. So I'll choose a car allowance. I'll say it's one of them and I'll say it's $150. It's an untaxed allowance. So it's just added that item there. I can go and add additional items. I can also click on it to change it. Let's say it's actually $160. And I can delete it if I decide that I've entered an error. Now when I preview the payslip, you'll see that the car allowance is there. So it comes after the tax has been deducted because it's an untaxed allowance. So thank you again for all your questions. They've all been really useful, hopefully useful for not just the people who asked them. So I might just go, I'll just show you the STP menu. So what you can see now on this STP menu is we've got one pay run here that has the tick. So that has been received by the ATO. That's the first pay slips I did in this session today. We've got the message back, but that second one is still pending. So I imagine that will come in the next few minutes. That will turn into a tick. Now, what I'd like to do is see if I can just very quickly show you how this looks on a mobile. So just bear with me a moment. See if the technology is going to be my friend today. Yes, looks like it is. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you should see my mobile phone on your screen. So this is actually my iPhone that's connected to my computer. So it's designed to work exactly the same as the app, as the website. So anything you can do on your mobile, on your website, you can do here. Same with accountants, the accountants out there in the audience. If you've got numerous businesses set up connected to your account, you can access them all from the mobile phone app. So you've got these 4 menus down the bottom. I'm just going to click on employees. Everything looks exactly the same. For example, I can click on Kylie and I've got that same information here. And I've got these tabs across the top, such as payroll. There's that rate, leave, annual leave loading, all those options, taxes, and super. And then doing payslips works the same way as well. If I click on, so this is that same account. So if I go to the STP menu, so we can see now that second pay run has now come back as complete. So if I look on the website as well, let's see if it's updated on the website. There we go. In front of our eyes, that's been complete. So you can see those screens are pretty much identical. And doing pay runs is the same as well. So you put in the dates, you choose a payment date, you select your employees, you click create pay run, and it's all the same information there. And further down, you've got these additional payslip options. And even on the mobile, you can do the same thing. You can preview the payslip. It's obviously a bit harder to see, but you can zoom in with 2 fingers. So I would encourage you, if you're not always stuck in front of the desk, or you want to be able to say, leave the office on time, but you've forgotten to do payroll, it is something you can literally do sitting on your couch, on an ad break. Well, there aren't many ads these days with Netflix, I guess, but you can, all you really need to do is find 5 minutes of your time, and you can literally do it sitting on the couch, sitting at the dining table. So it really does give you some flexibility. So I would encourage you to try it if that's something that you think might work for you. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back to the slides now for a moment. So we did get a question about what do you do if you make a mistake? So Really good question. And this happens all the time. And this will 100% happen to you at some point. So when you send an STP file, it's actually sending the year-to-date amounts each time. So what that means is when the ATO receive it, it overwrites the previous values it had for each of your employees. So what that means is if you've got a payslip wrong, you send the STP file, and then you realize you've made a mistake, you can go into Easy Payslip, you can delete the payslip, so that will back out any values to do with that payslip. You can then recreate it with the right values. That will then create an STP file, and then you can send that new STP file, and that will overwrite the values with the ATO for each employee with the new correct year-to-date values. So there is not a drama if you make a mistake. Ideally, you want to identify it as quickly as possible, but it's just a matter of deleting the payslip, redoing it. That will generate a new STP file, and you can then send that. Just one other question, when do we receive ATO confirmation? In the app, it usually takes anything from about 5 minutes up to, in theory, can take a couple of days. So around the end of the year, this time, like a few months ago, it was taking up to about 24 hours, but not much more. And ATO confirmation is really, it's just going into that screen and seeing there's a tick there. So what that tick is actually saying, it's saying that Easy Payslip has got an electronic message from the ATO saying your STP file has been received and it's been processed successfully. So what I would say, first few times you're doing this, come and check back after 15 or 20 minutes. Often it will happen that quickly. If it doesn't, leave it a few hours and then come back and check. If you still haven't seen anything a day or two later, then get in contact with us and we will absolutely check for you. But usually it's happening within a day in almost all cases. Okay, so look, there's a few other things I can show you in Easy Payslip, such as reports and settings and two-factor authentication, but I'm not going to at this stage. I think what's be really useful is just to try and get familiar with the basics of doing payroll. Once you're familiar with that, I think you'll find it quite easy to navigate around, to find your user settings, if you need to change your password or if you need to change your business address. You can always reach out to us, send us an email, give us a call if you do get stuck. You absolutely do not need to solve STP using Easy Payslip. There are a number of solutions out there that you can use. What I would advise, just like any software for your business, I would really advise thinking about what type of solution works for you. So that does not usually mean the one with the most features. More features often mean more complexity. You can end up having loads of bells and whistles that you never use. It can make things complicated. It can make things expensive. So a good example, most small businesses at some point will need the option of adding some different payslip items, such as overtime or director's fees or salary sacrifice. So I'd say it's important to have a solution that covers those eventualities. But there are systems out there that allow you to do rosters, that have like an employee companion app where your employees can get in and request their own leave. That's great if that works for your business, if you have time to set it up, if you have time to manage any issues, if you have time to teach your employees how to use it, that's great. But for a lot of small businesses, I would say that's not necessarily something that's going to make your life easier. So I think very clearly or closely about what features are important to you. The other thing I would say is prioritize good customer service. It's really, as a business owner, it can really be no fun working this stuff out on your own. And often it's a really simple bit of help that can make a big difference. You can literally often work out 99% of it on your own. It's just one little question or one little thing you need to know for a bit of reassurance that can make all the difference. So I would say when you're choosing some software, find something that actually offers that level of support and assurance. The last thing you want is to get something wrong and not know you got something wrong and then getting an ATO audit. I would say inviting your accountant or your bookkeeper or your colleague is a really valuable feature to have, just for that peace of mind. It means your accountant can get in there, they can run reports, they can see the same things you can see, and if you're doing something wrong, likely you'll pick it up before it's too late. And I would also say find something that works for your lifestyle. If you really want, if you're in front of the desk all day, make sure it's something you can use on a desktop computer. If you're mobile or you spend more time on your phone or tablet, find something that works on a tablet. If you're out in the country and you've got terrible internet reception, find a solution that you can use offline. That's probably a bit of a challenge, but you probably find there are a couple out there where you can install some software on your desktop that works offline. And the last bit of advice I would say is don't leave it to the last minute. This is the sort of thing where once you get the hang of it, I really genuinely believe you'll find it quite simple. It'll be something that you spend a couple of minutes on every week, month, or quarter, and then you forget about it. But it's worth setting it up, getting the hang of it, getting rid of that anxiety, and then knowing it's set. And what I would say is if you have taken in some of the information I've shared today and you feel like it's something that can work for you, I would say don't leave it. Get on now. If you've got extra questions, write to us now while it's fresh in your mind. Once you sort this out, once you've done a few pay slips, I think you'll find it's not something you're going to forget quickly. So it's something that you'll remember. It'll be a couple of minutes each week or each month, and it'll be something you can do. You can then forget about it, have the peace of mind, and get on with your life. And it would be nice to actually get ahead of the game. So be doing STP reporting before you get a letter from the ATO or before you get a letter from your accountant chasing you. As I've mentioned a couple of times, there is lots of support. So you can go to our website, you'll find lots of online help, just easypayslip.com. You can call us, you can email us. Again, the number's on the website, on the contact page. Your bookkeeper accountant, we will help you as much as we can in how to use the software to do what you're trying to do. But we try and avoid giving you actual accounting advice because actually our founder is an accountant, but we don't provide that service. So we will be as helpful as we can in terms of you doing what you need to do. If you have a tricky situation or you need some accounting advice, we suggest you reach out to your accountant or bookkeeper or HR specialist, especially if you're dealing with awards and that sort of thing. Okay, so I would like to